you call some of these revolutionaries who played a role in the Indian freedom movement as the nationalists, and labeled some of those who have been earlier mentioned as the greats in history as the loyalists. Why do you make that distinction?
So, for the viewers, so that I explain what this is, the book is called Revolutionaries, the other story of how India won its freedom. Now, what has happened here is that a particular narrative of Indian history has been given to us, which is skewed in that it gives the impression that India's freedom struggle was somehow uniquely non-violent. Now, of course, the non-violent movement does have a role, but there is an armed resistance that was also very, very important. And many of these characters, going back to Sri Aurobindo, Savarkar, then of course through Rash Bihari Bose, Sachin Sanyal, the likes of Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, Bismil, all the way through to Netaji, and then finally the revolt of 1946. Throughout this sort of narrative, the storyline, first of all, leaves much of them out, most of them out. But even if you did know about these individual characters, you get the impression that they're sort of individual acts of heroism. Whereas in fact, they were a part of a very well-organized movement that lasted over 5 decades and had its origins even earlier in armed resistance of an even earlier era. So the reason I wanted to write this book is that it is important to bring these people out, to show that this is not just random acts of heroism, that there was a plan, there was an ideology. These people had massive linkages around the world. If in the First World War, they had an embassy in Istanbul and in Berlin. In the Second World War, of course, in Tokyo and Singapore, they had a government, the Azad Hind Fauj as an army. So these are not trivial groups of people with small, efforts. These were huge efforts. And in that, now to come to your question, you have here a schism in that is revolutionaries. Why not call them by the name by which the revolutionaries called these people? So they call themselves the nationalists, and they call the other side the loyalists. And by the way, these terms are not mine. They are the terms used by Sri Aurobindo back in the 1900s.
So Sanjeev Sanyal, because I'm also a student of political history, if I understand you, you are trying to say that Gandhi, Nehru and the Congress are not the only people who got this country its freedom, its independence. There were a whole lot of others, extremists, the Lal, Bal, Pal trio that we talk about, were equally, you can say, the authors of the independence that we got. Is that the attempt?
Absolutely. There is a wider range of our society that participated in this. Much of this was through the armed revolt. And by the way, the revolutionaries had all kinds of other links as well. They were linked to the Eka movement, which is a peasant movement. They had linked to tribal revolts like that of Sitaramaya Raju in Andhra Pradesh, and the movie RRR is broadly based on that effort. So there were many other things that were going on, and the revolutionaries were at the heart of this other effort. Even within the Congress, by the way, they were quite powerful. Lal Bal Pal, after all, were within the Congress. Even in the 1930s, as Netaji demonstrated, the revolutionary sort of stream was capable of winning elections within the Congress against the Gandhian faction. So even within the Congress, this group was very powerful. So to have simply edited them out of the story is, in my view, unfair.